Hello and welcome. My name is Marcy Newton, and thank you for joining me for our Faculty Spotlight conversation series. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Rumi Coller-Takahashi, a lecturer in the program in Writing and Critical Inquiry. We talk about her approach to the writing sequence, how she creates an inclusive classroom, her move from Japan to make a life in America, and so much more. So please join me in welcoming Rumi Coller-Takahashi. Rumi, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Marcy.
So first question, what inspired you to join WCI?
So before joining WCI as a full-time faculty member, I was teaching the sections as a graduate student in the English department. And when I was teaching, also designing the syllabi, I realized that this course helps me to talk about writing process in so many different contexts. And also because there's a lot of autonomy given to the instructors, I could also think about how to kind of encourage each student to think about their own interests, their own expertise. So it was really fun to think about how to encourage them to do so through the writing process in many different contexts. So I was really interested in pursuing this as my major part of professional career.
Well, that's fantastic, Rumi, and especially having that, experience, with WCI even before coming into
Yes.
the program, full time.
Yes.
So, as you know, our courses typically revolve around a writing sequence.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your approach to that writing sequence?
Yes, of course. So we start with the analytical paper because I feel it's important for students to first listen to what is out there, like what people are talking about, how people are pursuing their own interests. So we start with analyzing and understanding published essays so that they can start to get the sense of what conversations are out there beyond the classroom. But also I use them as samples for students to see how personal interest can be a great way to start the process of critical inquiry. So we move on to personal narrative for the next assignment so that students can now reflect on, okay, what would I want to write about? What is my point of departure to pursue certain things for my own critical inquiry? It also helps, I believe, to have that assignment in the midterm point because that's where we can take a breath, pause, reflect on what we have been doing, what they have been doing in other courses. And then we move on to the final paper, which is argument conversation paper, where they extend personal narrative into how they can join the conversation out there based on their own interests, expertise, and knowledge they already have.
Rumi, I love that. I love your approach starting with the analysis paper so that students really think about, okay, what's out there?
Yeah.
And then, thinking about where they fit into that,
Yes.
right? So that's a really nice way to have the sequence.
Yeah, I like that because sometimes I used to have personal narrative in the beginning, and I like it because it also works as an icebreaker for students themselves. Like they talk to each other about their interests, but also sometimes students don't know what to write about or like what is hardest to me is some students think like what they want to talk about is not interesting enough or academic enough. So like I want to give them a chance to think about like what is academic, like what is interesting so that they know like, oh, people can talk about that. Yeah.
And then students might end up working on topics that they might not have initially considered if you hadn't approached it in that way. So that's absolutely fantastic. Rumi, I love that.
Thank you.
That approach. Now, I know that community
Yes.
is a central theme in your teaching.
Yes.
Why is that important to you?
To me, community is really interesting concept because it is essential for our life. Like we can't live without community, but it's also very easy to take it for granted. So I believe, especially for first year students, it will be a good opportunity for them to think about what community they belong to, what it is for them, because it sometimes helps to verbalize like their experience, something they take for granted, or we, including me, take for granted. But at the same time, community can have a lot of complex relationships or relational dynamics. So sometimes you actually need to critically review what community means. So, for example, you may belong to two different communities, and that intersection may be very important for them, even though they don't realize that. Or we may be born into a certain community, but their values or beliefs or assumptions may not fit into what you want to pursue. So then communal relationships can be a little bit exclusive or even oppressive, restricting to us. So it is important to have communal relationships, but I believe they also require a lot of constant intentional scrutiny, not to just criticize, but just to understand, like, where do I stand in this context, community? What is my position? Like, how do I contribute to this community, or do I want to stay in this community? So these kind of questions, I believe, can be also very important for especially first year college students, because many are like in the transition from high school to college. So finding their communities or rediscovering the communities they belong to, I believe, is important for them to think about.
And that's the thing, isn't it? When they come to university for the first time, they're away from home
Yes.
for the first time.
Yeah.
So that sense of community and belonging is probably really strong,
Yes.
in them, that need.
Yes.
To have that so they don't feel isolated, so that they feel that they can fit in,
Yes.
somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And that's part of the university experience, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not just the sort of the academic part of it. It's that thinking about community and the fact that you're also bringing it in to that classroom space, so that they can think about those conversations about community and where they fit in. So that's lovely.
Yeah, and also it's a good chance for them to reflect on where they came from now that they are away from their home community or community they grew up like for 17, 18 years. They seem to talk about their community with fond memories, of course, but also they have a little bit distant idea of like what it means. Like, oh, now I look back on it, like, oh, that's what they believe. Well, that's what they assume, but now I'm physically distant or a little out of that. Like now I can think about like what that means to be part of the community. And when students talk to each other about that kind of different experiences, I see like some kind of bonding there. Even though they are not from the exact same communities, they are building up some kind of relationships as a college student in the same classroom, even though they are not sharing exact same experiences. So that kind of like community, like bigger or smaller, like kind of sprouting anywhere in different contexts is really interesting. And I want to kind of encourage students to find their own way of belonging.
Yeah. And that also sort of makes me think about you, right? Because you've not always lived in this area
Yes.
yourself. So where did you grow up, and what sort of community did you come from?
So
and how did you end up in Albany?
I'm really far away from my home community too. So speaking of community, like I was born in Japan and I grew up there until I came here as a grad student. So I was there for like 20 some years, and then I was studying American literature back then in Japan. So anyone who was pursuing a PhD degree for American literature, went to the United States. Like, why not? Like, you are learning about American literature. Like, you should be here in the United States to learn more about that. So I was applying to the graduate schools. I couldn't get into the PhD programs, but I was accepted by the MA program here at Albany in liberal studies. So that's an interdisciplinary field housed in English department, but students take courses, not just English, but also other disciplines. So I took like philosophy, political science courses. So that's how I came here. And then I finished my MA and then reapplied to the PhD in English and then got it this time. So I was able to stay here for my study and research. Yeah.
That's funny. And the rest is history. Right,
The rest
Rumi?
is history, yeah, and I stayed.
Yeah. So what was it like though? Like when you first, arrived here, was it intimidating, in this country? Was there that sense of excitement? I mean,
More of an excitement because I feel like I stayed at my home too long. Like I was so ready to get out of my home because I was also living with my parents and grandparents. In Japan, you not usually, you can just go to college from your parents' house. We don't have a lot of residential campus there. So usually students live off campus or go to college from their own house. And I was doing that. So I was staying with my family for long, which was not bad. But still, like when I came here, everything was first time. Like I lived first time alone. It was my first time to live alone. And doing everything alone. So that was actually kind of liberating to me. And also in the classroom, the culture was different. So it was learning process, but at the same time, I was more excited because I did start the similar process of research and like close reading and exercises in Japan. So in the classroom, I could focus on what I have been building on, like what I have been practicing in Japan. So that cultural adjustment was something I could enjoy while I was confident of what I have been doing also can, work or I can keep working on it. I don't know if that makes sense.
yeah. Now, did you miss home initially?
I did.
or-
I missed my friends because we had really close, I did have a lot of close friends. So I did miss being there. But fortunately, I had some Japanese colleagues coming at the same time. So I was able to hang out with people who I knew before coming here. Not a big group, but still, I was able to keep that kind of connection. And also, I was also excited with a lot of time I can spend on reading and like writing. So I did miss Japan, but also it was kind of a healthy amount of missing. I knew like I'm doing what I wanted to here, and this is important for me to be here. And my family was very supportive. Like they have been supportive all this time. They never said like, "Oh, you shouldn't go that away from the home country." So yeah, that helped. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're still over there in
Yes,
Japan.
yes.
Yeah. I have sort of similar situation because all my family over
Yeah.
in England, and they didn't anticipate, that I'd meet a guy, get married in 2.5 months, and then leave the country. But after a while, everybody gets used to it.
Yes. It also helps. My mother loves the United States, so she loves to just visit here.
There we go.
And shopping sprees. Yeah. So she loves Manhattan. So
That is funny. So she's thinking, oh, America. Okay, yep.
place to visit, yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's good. Now, you're also the current co-chair
Yes.
of the Anti-Racism and Intersectional Justice committee.
Yes.
So do you integrate sort of social justice themes into your curriculum?
I do, especially since the murder of George Floyd in 2020. Have been focusing on reading materials. I have been introducing reading materials that encourage students to think about social issues, especially racism. So I do integrate materials that are explicitly focusing on social justice issues. And I did have an overarching course theme with like oppression, social oppression in the past, so that I can ask students to reflect on their experience or their observation on social issues. I have let that go though, because when I ask students to explicitly talk about social oppression, some students find it difficult to find their angle, so they feel like they have to say what is being said on media. So, for example, some students feel like, oh, I have to talk about Black Lives Matter movement, but when they write about that topic, I don't think they have a lot of like investment or personal take on the movement. They feel like this is what I expect them to write about. So I let go of this theme and decided to just include reading materials that are about social justice and then let students think about what they want to pursue. And I realized sometimes students don't talk about social justice as an explicit theme. For example, many students in this semester write about interpersonal relationships, but in the process of their research, they end up touching on some aspects of social justice issue, like social health disparities, like as part of their research process. So I realized like it doesn't have to be always explicitly about social justice, but it's more about how students can focus on their own interest and expertise and knowledge.
Now, I also know that, having, fostering an inclusive, classroom is, sort of really important to you.
Yes.
So, how do you balance creating that inclusive classroom environment while also challenging students to examine potentially uncomfortable topics like
Yeah.
racism or disability?
Yes, it is difficult, but also important. So first I try to that's why I start with analytical paper. I start with particular text and particular author's viewpoint, so that when we discuss the issue like racism, disability, we can focus on what the author is talking about, what point they are making, what purpose they have in their writing, so that it is grounded on a particular point of view. And if they have a question, it's not just they. So if we focus on the particular text or particular point of view, when students have a question or when students do not know what to say, like we can always make it as part of the analytical process. So I hope that helps students, because they don't feel like when they speak up, they are like targeted or they can be attacked because of their opinions, ideas. We are talking about this author's point of view, so they can raise questions to them. They can disagree with them. So to show that, I also model kind of a dissenting reader sometimes. I tell students outright, like, it's not that I agree with this author all the time, or it's not that we have to agree with what this author says. Like, I raise questions to what the author says, or I show like how I may disagree with what the author says. So show students like we are focusing on how the argument is presented, how the analysis is building up the argument, so that it's not about what one person believes or views, but more about how we talk about that person's view and belief. So try to depersonalize students' questions or participation a little bit. so that when it's time for them to reflect on their own views, they know like how to present their personal views and opinions in a productive conversation. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And at the same time, you're encouraging students to engage in these
Yes.
conversations
Yes.
and really critically examine the views that they're hearing, the perspectives that they're hearing.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, you've given me permission to have an authentic voice in
Yes.
this conversation.
Yes.
Whereas at the beginning, they might not feel that they have that space or that they are allowed, right, to even explore these difficult topics,
Yes.
right? But by offering them to them, like from and reading different, writers' views on them, you're saying, yes, you're drawing them in and giving them that space to engage in these really important conversations that might also be important to them. So that's absolutely fantastic, Rumi. I love that. I love that approach. I was thinking, oh, how am I going to build my syllabus in the fall? Maybe I should start with
It's all about like stealing good ideas from my past colleagues.
But this is fantastic. I mean, this is how we learn from each other as well.
Yes.
So it's hearing what each of our colleagues are doing, and it's absolutely it's inspiring, Rumi, for sure.
Thank you.
What's the most rewarding part about teaching in WCI for you?
Individual conference, like hands down, individual conference. Yeah, because this each class is small. I get to see every student individually at least twice a semester. And if they visit office hours even more, that time I can sit down with them, even for a short amount of time, just have a conversation about their process or what they have been working on, even about their life, like what they are interested in, like what they are part of. Like that moment is really rewarding because I get to know the students, which I think is a privilege. Like if you are teaching a big class, like you don't have time to see like 300 students and talk with them even for 15 minutes. So it's really rewarding and also inspiring because usually those individual conferences are when I start to think about like, did I reach this student effectively in the classroom? Like how can I bring that voice in the classroom where other students get to know this person like I now do? Or toward the end of the semester, I'm talking with a student. I'm like, why didn't I know about that? Like until now, like how could I have got this point a little bit earlier? So individual conference is great to get to know each student more, but also keeps me on toe because there must be something I could do to bring that voice more in the classroom. So that's why individual conference is usually my most favorite, but also most humbling moment in the semester.
And I am sure that the students appreciate that because here's someone who cares about me, right? More than just a warm seat in a classroom, right? Realizing that, for them to be successful, there's like this sort of holistic, approach, to working with them, caring about them as human beings, as much as, about their success as a student. I'm going to shift.
Okay.
Right. So you have a beautiful son.
Thank you.
Ren.
Yes.
How is he doing? And anything exciting that you've done recently as a family?
Yeah, he's great. He's 4.5 years old. We have been going out recently. Finally, the weather is nice, so we can spend more time outside. So last weekend, we just spent our time in the yard, and my husband John is building a planter from like old wood and shatter left, like basically scraps. And Ren is helping out by measuring and like hitting nails. And I was tending, flowers. So spending time outside was fantastic. And we are actually planning to have a camping trip later this month. So that's the exciting event coming because Rin loves camping. We started last year and now it's one of his favorite activities. And he knows he has his own sleeping bag. So when the weather started to be nice this year, that's the first thing he wanted. Where's my sleeping bag? So now we have sleeping bag just lying in the living room where he can just sleep. So yeah, that's something we are looking forward to.
Now, I know this might be a cheesy question, but what do you do in your spare time? If you have spare time.
I try to make some spare time and it depends on how much time I have, but like now, like I mentioned, I love to tend garden. I'm trying to create pollinator gardens in our yard. So that's my obsession, passion at this point. So I love to go to a garden center and find some native plants and plan out the garden in our yard. So that's something I do like when I have a lot of time. But while I'm teaching, I try to find something, I can take my eyes off the screen. So in winter, crochet is my go-to hobby for time because it's very mechanical once you get things going. So I can do it like for like 5 minutes while Ren is distracted with TV or something he's working on. And I can, leave it and pick it up whenever I want. So crochet is something. So I was obsessed with crochet basket last winter. So I made like tons of small, big baskets. So that's something I love to do. Yeah, during winter, especially in cold season. Yeah.
I know they have those woobles out. It's like a new little crochet kit. I bought a few of them because I did try crochet and I don't know if it's my brain just wasn't computing, how to do it, but they've got those like narwhals, a little Frankenstein, type thing.
They're so cute, yes.
Because I can imagine that's just so relaxing.
Yes.
Just that you're talking about that sort of mechanical,
yes,
sense of it. And the pollinators, that's actually fantastic. Do you have like aphids? Do you suffer from like aphids? Yeah, in the classroom, do you go like vegetables in the garden or?
Vegetables are more like my husband's obsession. So he's in charge of vegetables and I am more obsessed with flowers. We work together, but also we have kind of different areas to tender. So I'm working on pollinator gardens, so flowers. And he is growing his vegetable babies in the small cups right now. Yeah.
Okay, because Court and I have started building sort of the vegetable garden but the thing is that you get like these little critters like aphids. So the key for us, at least, is to have the pollinating flowers near the vegetables that are getting chewed up, mauled by all these different
I'm learning
things.
about all the companion plants, like what should be planted next to each other. Yeah.
Allegedly. Right, allegedly the companion plant.
I know. I had marigolds last year because it keeps pests away. Like the next day, our resident squirrel ate all of it. So we lost marigolds in a day, and I saw squirrels just munching on the stalk, and I was like, nope, no pests away from marigolds.
Rumi, final question.
Okay.
Purple or gold?
Purple.
Why purple?
Gold is too goldy to me.
Fair enough. Rumi, thanks for joining me today. It's lovely talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Marcy. It was lovely talking with you too.